Brendan Sorsby was brought in to lead the Bearcats football team, and it's time to let him cook.
You are Locked On Bearcats, your daily podcast on the Cincinnati Bearcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Bearcats. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm all Cincinnati all the time. I've worked in multiple university athletic departments and have been a football season ticket holder for the Bearcats for several years now. Locked On Bearcats is always part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and we want to thank you for making us the top sports podcast network in the country. We are your Bearcats every single day. On today's podcast, Russ Heltman will be a consistent voice for us here on Locked On Bearcats. This is going to be about the time of the week that he joins us, and I can't wait to talk to him. We're going to talk about his journey later on in the show. In just a few minutes, we will discuss why expectations will be difficult to pin down early in the basketball season with all these new faces. But we're going to begin with Brendan Sorsby on today's episode that is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the FanDuel app today. And today we got joining us the most trusted voice in Clifton, Russ Heltman. Russ, what you got for me, man?
So excited to be with you, Jeff, and ready to break down all of the great Bearcats basketball and football action over this calendar year, upcoming athletics year for the Cincinnati Bearcats University festivities. And we're already going. We're in the midst of football. We got basketball firing up in just a couple of weeks. Well, 6 weeks just about from the start of basketball. Big year for Scott Satterfield in the Big 12 about to get going next week, and a very big year for Wes Miller as he has the most change ever for one of his rosters happening for what could be his final year or what could be an amplifier year for Wes Miller, depending on what happens over the next 6 months or so on the hardwood.
Yeah, Wes shuffled all the cards into the deck, and he's got a new hand completely to play with here. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but I do want to zero in on the football team. We do have a bye week going on this week, and we're going to be watching closely what Kansas does to West Virginia, at least according to the odds makers. They think it's going to be a lot. So I'm curious to see exactly how they respond to that sort of a line, but I'm really zeroing in on Brendan Sorsby here because I kind of feel like, I mean, obviously coming off the perfect game against Northwestern State, that, yeah, it's really hard to get excited about that when you're talking about a team that is so far down on the pedestal of Division I football. But at the same time, perfect cannot be overlooked. And the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week notwithstanding, I sort of feel like I've seen some improvisation from him this season. The little bit that he has done, I think, has been good for this offense. And really, when you look at a lot of the question marks surrounding how the Bearcats move the ball against bigger foes, like, is it time to just let Brendan Sorsby read and react to the defense out there?
If that is in the sense of, like, give him more snaps in terms of dropbacks, give him more ability to pass the football, I think it remains to be seen, Jeff, because it's just, I don't know what Brendan Sorsby is right now in terms of how good he is this year compared to last year, just with the way that the schedule's fallen. Like, just the way that the schedule's played out. You have the horrific game against Nebraska in week 1. It was his worst game, arguably, as a passer since coming to Cincinnati, just 52% completion, 69 yards, and the interception. But he ended up with a 66.2 QBR in that game, Jeff, because of his rushing ability. Led the team in rushing, had almost 100 yards on the ground, and had those 2 touchdowns. And it's a big reason why that performance on the ground is the big reason why he's 6th nationally right now in ESPN's total college QBR among every player in the FBS. So, I mean, the numbers say that he's been really good, that he is better than he was last year. But you have a 95.1 against Bowling Green, a team that's ranked outside the top 100 in Bill Connolly's ESPN S&P Plus, and you have a 99.8 QBR, nearly perfect performance against Northwestern State, who you just mentioned, one of the worst teams in the FCS. I would argue they are the worst FCS team in the entire country. They're ranked 349th nationally now in the college football S&P Plus total 768 or whatever that Bill Connolly releases every Monday. That's really low, people. I mean, this might be the worst team that Cincinnati will face the entire quarter century. You could make an argument, Jeff, that this was the worst team they faced in the first.
It's comparable to
25 years.
Transylvania back in 1912.
Well, yeah, that's my point. It's not. That's why I said the quarter century.
Right.
But
right.
it's just left us with a little bit of a difficult way to gauge how good Brendan Sorsby is. I think he is at least a little bit better compared to last season, and his physique's better compared to last season. I think his stamina is going to be better compared to last season. So in that sense, talking through it right here, I'm kind of with you. I think put the kind of entree on Brendan Sorsby's plate and let him have the utensils and see if he can eat it across this Big 12 slate that we're about to enter. And it's a big test against Kansas coming up, a Kansas defense that has been susceptible to some issues that I'm sure we'll get to more in depth next week when we preview the game on the Friday episode. But there's opportunities here for Brendan Sorsby, and he's going to be facing what are largely going to be top 40 teams the rest of the way here, Jeff. I'll go ahead and look once you retort, but I don't think that Cincinnati plays a team outside ESPN's top 50 in the FPI besides maybe UCF and Oklahoma State. So there's plenty of good tests for Brendan Sorsby to see if he's really capable of adding more and more, like you said, to his plate.
That's definitely one of the things that's been so difficult about evaluating him. Like you mentioned, they haven't played anybody, and there's been some plays that I really try to squint really hard, and I really try to glean as much as I can. There were a few throws that he made that it looked like they were right on target. They were deep throws, because
especially
when
in the BG
playing,
game, some rollouts, yes, he really, really did well. I mean, and the Northwestern State performance, yes, guys were running wide open down the field, but you still have to hit those deep balls. Yeah. You still have to hit them. And he was perfect on, I believe, I'll have to go back and look at the stat broadcast numbers, but it was 6 or 7 passes of 15 plus yards, and he completed every single one. So that's all you can ask for.
There's something to be said for that. And that's where I'm interested to see what more he has, because it feels like in those really schemed games, like the Nebraska game and going back to some of the games last year, where it seemed as though they had a game plan. That game plan was very short dink and dunk passes, lots of screen passes, lots of swing passes, and lots of checkdowns where it was, all right, you got one read deep, and then you've got a couple of reads short. And as much as he can flourish in that sort of thing, I think there's something to opening it up just a little bit for him, because as he goes, this offense will go, because I don't think anybody comes into a matchup with the Bearcats expecting them to lay aside the run game. They're going to dare them to do anything but. And so it's clear to me that, like, at least we've got to see what Brendan Sorsby has. I'm kind of with you. I don't necessarily know that I'm advocating for the clear, better option, but at the same time, I think it will be far more interesting for this offense to see its big step forward, because Scott Satterfield came in as the offensive guy, and the offense has been anything but impressive since he's got here.
And we'll see kind of what the ratio of time of possession kind of works out in conference play compared to non-con, because Jeff, it's I believe they still stayed in second to last place nationally following this past weekend's game and overall time of possession, which it's not the end all be all, but you would like to get a little bit more balance between the amount of snaps that your defense is going through and the amount of snaps that your offense is going through. And Brendan Sorsby actually asked him after the game on Saturday if that lesson diet of snaps is going to help the offense stay a little fresher coming off of a bye week and entering conference play. And he said that it probably will. And he said the offense and him in general feel really, really good health wise, and they've stayed pretty healthy so far. So that's a really good portion of things on the offensive side. Defense, a little bit less healthy with Logan Wilson getting dinged up throughout non-conference, and Dante Corleone obviously recovering from an ankle injury as we speak right now. But yeah, I mean, 4 for 4 on the deep ball in that game against Northwestern State. I think he was perfect on the deep ball in the game against Bowling Green State University. And what we've talked about in my conversation with people all offseason is unlocking that deep ball. If you can unlock that deep ball, you could start to see what we've seen in non-conference play, which is quick drives, big plays, big touchdown plays, a lot more of those this season so far compared to this time last year. So when you think about Brendan Sorsby having a 29% completion rate on passes of 20-plus yards last season, according to PFF, that number has been way better so far this season, and it's a big reason why they're putting up more points and they're scoring more as an offense in the 2 games against non-top 100 opponents. but we have to see this execution against good teams. Can Brendan Sorsby not make those mental mistakes in the big moments against good teams? He overthrew. The one that sticks out the most is a clear first down. It would have been for the Cincinnati offense. May have been the difference in the game that they lost 20-17 against Nebraska. He overthrows Jeff Caldwell on a deep comeback route, which would have been at least a 20-yard completion, would have gotten them in the Nebraska territory. They end up punting the football the next play because he doesn't hit a simple routine throw. Maybe there have been enough games. He's in enough of a rhythm now, Jeff, where the simple routine throws can be more consistent from Brendan Sorsby. And I mean, the results are the results over the past few weeks, and he has hit those routine throws very, very well. And obviously most recently went 100%, 15 of 15 from the field.
We're definitely going to dive into a lot more of what Brendan Sorsby has as we move along toward the Kansas game next Saturday. But Wes Miller spoke with everybody a couple of days ago, and I kind of want to break down this roster because I really think with the entirely new roster that he's going to have on the basketball court, expectations are going to be a little bit tricky. It's almost the weekend. That means it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving more with every time you order, these players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Brendan Sorsby is far and away the Bearcats player of the week from the beatdown of Northwestern State last week because he didn't even throw an incompletion. 15 for 15. He had 5 touchdowns in the first quarter, setting both a Bearcats school record and a Big 12 record for touchdowns in one quarter. He was absolutely dynamite. When the pressure was on, he came through. And just like Brendan Sorsby delivered for the Bearcats, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it all up in a season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Couple of big games in the Big 12 this weekend, and you got to head on over to FanDuel to take advantage of all the action. By the way, new users can place a $5 bet, and if it wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. That's like twice what they normally offer. You got to take advantage of this right now. And I'm looking at a few of these Big 12 games. The big one, of course, Texas Tech and Utah. Really early game for the Utes, and they're favored by 2.5 over Texas Tech. I think I'm actually going to take Texas Tech to cover that 2.5 point spread. And then I'm also looking at another underdog, and quite frankly, it seems like a trap, but I think I'm going to try and spring the trap. West Virginia is getting 12.5 against Kansas. They're in Kansas, but 12.5? That almost feels disrespectful. I'm taking West Virginia to cover the 12.5 in those games. Those are my 2 picks for the week. Take them on over to FanDuel. Like I said, new users, $5 win gets you $300 in bonus bets. Download that FanDuel app today. Thank you for making Locked On Bearcats part of your everyday routine and your first listen. If you are not yet an everydayer, please hit that subscribe button. We're free and available on all platforms. All right, Russ, the brand new roster here for Wes Miller. And we talked a little bit about Buck Harris yesterday, and I think he's going to be a key part of all of the newcomers that are coming in. Day-Day's really the only holdover, I mean, the guy of intrigue really on this roster that's going to play a lot. So I think it's really tough to set those expectations. And I think that when I look at the different things and what Wes Miller said, like, where do you take all of this in at and say, all right, how do we evaluate him, much less how do we evaluate this team?
Well, it's NCAA tournament or bust for Wes Miller and this Cincinnati Bearcats outfit. He has to make the NCAA tournament this year, or else it's just going to be really difficult to justify getting a 5th season in Clifton. Just look at the buyout structure for Wes Miller. The number drops to $9.9 million. It's a $9.9 million buyout right now, and it drops another $4.69 million on April 1st, 2026. So that's a very palatable number for Cincinnati to be able to swallow, to be able to take on, and be able to move forward with another option. I hope we don't reach that point. I like Wes Miller a lot. he seems like a really great guy. He's been really great with the media. He's been really candid with us over the years. He's a fiery guy. He cares about his players. He cares about this program. He cares about this city. I want it to work out, but he has to get to the dance this year. You cannot justify what would it be, Jeff? 7 consecutive seasons without going to the NCAA tournament this entire decade without an NCAA tournament appearance. And they are investing heavy dollars into this program. The donor base is. So when you think about the investment, you think about the amount of time that Wes Miller's been given, it's put up or shut up time, especially given the fact that they have allotted him a general manager this offseason with Corey Evans coming into the fold and helping put together this roster. They have brought in completely brand new roster, basically outside of Halvin Zealot, Tyler McKinley, and Day Thomas. It's all brand new guys in the other 12 spots. And Day Thomas is the only real rotation piece coming back here. So when you think about this new look, new clean slate for Wes Miller, I am hesitant to get sucked back in as a guy who's picked this team to go to the NCAA tournament the past couple of years and win at least 23 games.
Right.
But I love the construction of the roster. I think they're shooting at almost every position. There is playmaking at almost every position, even at center position with Mustafa Cham. He can really pass the ball at 7 foot plus and operate out of the post and operate out of the elbow and offense there. So I think there's versatility across this roster. There's experience across this roster, so much international experience, pro-international experience at that. And there's a ton of college veteran experience across this roster that I think will be enough to get Cincinnati back to the NCAA tournament. But I think they look good almost every single season, it seems like, coming out in a conference play. And then January hits, Jeff, the doldrums of January.
Right. And Big 12 conference play. And I mean, as much as Big 12 is interesting in football, it is a gauntlet. And that's being nice about it in basketball, because I think it's the best conference in the country. But I kind of wonder a little bit too, like when it comes to Wes Miller, and before we jump into, you know, something that I thought about, like the different practice schedules and all that. Why do we, because I do this in the way that you're saying right now, I kind of feel like you do this too. Why do we evaluate him differently than Scott Satterfield? Because I am putting a lot of pressure on Satterfield to really get to a bowl game this year, since they haven't done it for a few seasons and they haven't gone 3 straight years without a bowl game since the 90s. But like you mentioned, we're going on year 7 without getting to the tournament in basketball. And that feels almost far more egregious than the 3 years without a bowl.
I think you give Wes a little bit more leeway because he was hired as an AAC coach. I don't believe they had any confirmed knowledge, Jeff, when they hired Wes Miller, that they were going to be joining the Big 12 definitively. This was like a few months before the whole whirlwind really picked up. And so you have that aspect. You have to go through what this program went through. I mean, it was even worse than the exit of Luke Fickell for the Cincinnati Bearcats basketball program and what happened with John Brandon. I mean, he didn't have anyone on the roster when Wes Miller got here. So I think you give him that leeway because of those factors, and you're also entering the Big 12 and making that leap from the 7th, 8th best basketball conference in the country in the AAC to the top, what was the top conference when Wes Miller got here, and is now, I would say, neck and neck with the SEC. It's gained some steam on the Big 12 over the past couple of years, but entering year 5 here, it's just you got to execute. I think Wes Miller knows that. Everybody knows that. Everybody around the program knows this. You got to get at least to the NCAA tournament. He doesn't have to win a tournament game, I don't think, to keep his job, but he's got to make it to the NCAA tournament. And I mean, I don't know, Jeff, if they don't make it as an at-large and they end up making it through a miracle Big 12 tournament run and then still look bad in the NCAA tournament, I don't know that would be enough. So to me, it's a consistent showing throughout the whole year of snagging at least a 10 seed or higher and not relying on what they've had to rely on every single postseason stint in the Wes Miller era, winning at least 3 or 4 games in the conference tournament. And some seasons, like last year, they basically had to get to the final or win it to have a chance to make the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it definitely feels like we evaluate him so differently. But I'm with you. I think that you kind of have to be objective about this and say, look, you've got to move forward. The good news is, even with all the brand new players, all the different like changes when it comes to practicing, when it comes to working with the team, has really helped him. And he was talking about that during the preseason press conference the other day. And I found what he had to say very enlightening for fans that don't know. Like it's far different than it used to be.
Yeah, it's so much different than it used to be. I think back to when I was playing and when I first got into coaching. When I was playing, the coaches didn't touch the players at all. And honestly, until school started, if they did, it was in small groups of 4 or less. And you didn't do anything as a team on the court until October 15th. And I know that was a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago. And so how that's evolved in the time that I've been in coaching until now is very significant. So we get the 4 hours a week in the summertime for 8 weeks. And we can use that however we want from a basketball perspective. We get that same 4 hours a week in the fall preseason until we start that official practice, which will be for us Monday. But we're going to have saved 4 hours for Sunday, so that type of thing. But so Sunday will be the first official practice for our program. But as it looks on the NCAA calendar, Monday will be practice 1 of 30. But practice 1 for us will be on Sunday. So anyway, yeah, it's changed a lot. I think how to use that time is something you think in a lot of depth about with the changing landscape. So, years ago we used to use the first 4 weeks primarily for skill development, and it was program-based skill development. Now you get into the team concepts much quicker, and I think that summertime and this fall period is so much more important for team development than maybe it was 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I'm curious as to how that changes the expectations for this roster, even if just a little bit. But also I want to really dive into the fact that, you're going to be an important part of the show with me here moving forward. We're going to tell you all about that coming up next. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every single ride. They've got more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else to this point. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings that same intention to how they craft every car. You can feel that Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because you make every move count. Impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. I encourage you to keep the conversation going with me and with Russ at the end of the show. You can follow us on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 F's for me and at Russ Heltman 11 for Russ. And then you can also follow a bunch of different, TikTok, Instagrams, all this other stuff for Locked On Bearcats. Locked On Bearcats, all one word for Instagram and TikTok, and LO_Bearcats on Twitter. All the socials, all the things. But let's, for just 2 seconds before we dive into you, let's quickly unpack that clip, because I find it intriguing, all the different ways that they're able to work with guys much earlier on in the season. Even when I was an SID about 10 years ago, this was completely different, and I think this benefits them greatly.
Oh, yeah, especially with how many guys are coming in from all different areas, all different parts of the country, all different parts of the world, with Baba Miller, Kirk Riesa. Just so many different personalities, and just any extra hours that you could get to build chemistry on the floor, to continue to come together is really great. And I don't know why they don't just let the floodgates open for the entire summer. These guys are making millions to do this. Right. This is a job. These are jobs. These are full-time jobs. The coaches shouldn't be restricted to coaching their players if these guys are going to be working out in the summer anyways. Like, you're a part of the team. You're locked into the team. You signed a contract to get your NIL locked in. It's a job. Like, let these coaches have their hands on with these players from day one. All across the sport, Jeff, if that were the case, then we would have much better product throughout the entire season in terms of on-court chemistry, in terms of on-court performance. I don't know what the case would be for not allowing this, if you're a fan, you'd want to see these guys be able to practice together and work out together and work together as much as possible. And it doesn't make much sense to me that they even restrict any time in the summer, let alone they used to have those major restrictions. And I'm glad that they have lessened them over this decade.
Yeah, it kind of felt like a weird game of like, let's see what you got, but it's going to be a surprise. And now it's like, no, nobody's doing that.
Well, and I get it, because you want the students to have summers off and not be obligated to come back and do scholarship things in the summer while you're not actually being a scholar. But that's all out the window now. Like, these are full-time jobs. These are $1 million positions, multi-million dollars in some cases for some of these players. Getting them in as fine-tuned a shape and as closely monitored by the entities that are paying them, by the entities that are putting all this together would be the way to do it, in my opinion. And obviously that's the opinion of the powers that be, because we're seeing more and more of these guardrails get lessened or taken out.
And it makes total sense. It absolutely does. But
one more thing before we get to me, and I got a note on the football that we didn't get to touch on earlier. Brendan Sorsby, I mentioned, Jeff, 29% completion rate on passes of 20+ yards last season, according to PFF. 63 PFF grade on those throws. He's up to a 92 PFF grade on 20+ yard passes, 54% completion rate, 6 big-time throws to just 1 turnover-worthy play. Obviously, none of that really happened against Nebraska, but those are really good numbers all in all from the 3 games.
Right. And like we said, if you're presented with those opportunities, you still have to execute. Like, quarterbacks don't just get to teleport the ball to their receivers' hands. They've got to make the good throws. And he is, at least when he's given the opportunities, no matter the opponent's level, he has been making those throws. So hopefully he can continue to do that. I mean, Kansas is going to be tough, but man, they got Iowa State the week after that. It's going to be real tough. So he's going to have to make sure he can
win the Big 12 right there, the Iowa State Cyclones.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. It's going to be interesting to analyze for sure. But yeah, let's switch gears here a little bit as we end the show. Yesterday, I got the chance to introduce myself a little bit, but I want to have you kind of set up, like, how have you gotten to where you are? Like take me on your journey, because I know that you are one of the most trusted voices. I said that, and I know you kind of chuckled a little bit, but you're one of the most trusted voices in Clifton when it comes to the Bearcats. And how'd you get here?
I appreciate that, Jeff. Well, I got my journalism degree at Ohio University, started out there and worked at a couple radio stations in town there for the WUB public media and all that stuff, the PBS station there. And then I met my lovely wife there. We actually moved to Toledo coming out of college, worked at a couple ESPN affiliate radio stations up there. And then she's also a news producer as well. So she went up there. We were there for a couple of years up until about 2021. And then she got a gig down here in Cincinnati as a local producer. And I started working with FC Cincinnati as one of their media comms officials. And then you and I both know James Rapine, obviously of the Cincinnati Bearcats on SI publisher and Bengals on SI publisher. And so he brought me on and added more and more to my plate over the past few years and asked if I wanted to be the Bearcats reporter for Cincinnati Bearcats on SI. And so we got that fired up at the end of the 2021 football season. I had that going strong ever since. And then, I've been working that for half of my kind of daily duties. And then the other half is actually at WMKV Public Radio, which is the studio that you see right here, the half of the studio at least. And so it allows me to sound a little bit better in the sound enclosed room. And it's great. I love doing the morning radio hosting 6 to 10 a.m. on WMKV 89.3. Check me out, people. And check us out here on Locked On Bearcats as well.
Got a 4-hour show. Is it very regimented, or is it kind of like you plan?
So it's 2 hours of newscast from 8 to 10 or from 6 to 8 a.m. So we run the local 12 newscast, and I run all the breaks. Like I come on and do my voice for all the breaks, because we're not allowed to run their commercials over our public broadcasting airwaves. And then 8 to 10 a.m. we're kind of wide ranging music, like 30s jazz standards, old music, all the way up to 70s soft rock. So it's a whole wide range from 8 to 10. People can request songs, all that good stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Morning drive time radio is so interesting. I produced a little bit with back when Mike McConnell worked at 700, and that was such a fast moving show, because it was just like news, sports, traffic, weather, and like
it moves way faster in the morning too. Yeah.
Oh man. And especially, and I think part of it is because your coffee's still kicking in. So like life is just like, "Hey, we're going, you
Yep.
better catch up." And so then by the time the show's over, you're just like, "Woo, all right, let's get this day going." Like it just
Exactly.
goes by
It's a
so
lot of-
fast.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I'm blessed to be able to do what I do and mix all these things together, and excited to build something great here with you, Jeff, on the Locked On Bearcats show. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Big seasons ahead. I cannot wait. In the middle of a
Right.
big season already. As we speak.
Right. And I was happy to get this show going when we do, because we're heading into Big 12 conference play next week.
Right. You get a little bye week to buffer in between.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Ready to go. Got all the non-conference stuff out of the way, and we're going to be with you every single day. Russ is going to be on with us every Friday, so make sure that you set your calendars accordingly. If you have a calendar that you set, I don't know if you put it in your phone, like we were joking before we hit record. I can't remember anything if it's not in my calendar. So, but appreciate everybody for checking out today's Locked On Bearcats, and make sure that you make us. I invite you to make Locked On Bearcats part of your everyday routine. If you've not yet done so, hit that subscribe button here on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, because we are free and available on all platforms. And make sure you like and comment and all those good things, because they will help grow this community for Bearcat fans to find more easily. Now, go check out the Fire TV College Football Kickoff show that we got for you. It's another big moment on Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present the College Football Kickoff Show, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll from the Locked On Big 12 show leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV. Thanks again, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.